one last time, if there's anybody who has already checked in or is in the audience that is a non-resident or a non-registered voter who wishes to speak, please come in and sign in with me down at the front. We're going to get started shortly. Again, there are plenty of seats in the front row if anybody's looking to sit. Kelly, we're going to get started. I know there are plenty of people coming in, but the voting's not going to start until after the meeting takes place. So I am going to get started on time, regardless. And as people move in from the back, just please quickly and quietly as best as you can. So at this point, it is after 6:30. I am going to call the meeting to order. I am going to ask that you stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is typically the point in the meeting where I ask people to take out their cell phones and either turn them off or silence them. Prior to having you do that, though, because we have such a large turnout, in my many years here, I've never seen such a large turnout, I will let everybody know so that they can put it into the calendars of their phone that town meeting is March 13th this year. March 13th. And I would be very grateful to see you all there on March 13th as well. So once you have that put into your calendar for your phones, please make sure you silence them or turn them off entirely. The next thing I'd like to do is to say thank you to Kelly Skehan, our town clerk, and her staff, the highway crew and the front office crew. They've done all the setup and the preparation for this meeting. As you come in and you have checked in, you should have been given a sheet of guidelines to be followed and a voting card. Both were available as you entered the hall. And if you do not have a voting card, you cannot address this body or vote. So please make sure you have one of these voting cards and that you have our guidelines. They are an amended version of the guidelines we have at town meeting, and it also includes a timeline or an agenda for this evening because this is a unique situation. So you can all take a look at that. I have asked that as people came in, if there are any non-registered voters or non-residents of the town that are going to wish to address this body, they need to come in and sign in with me. So if there's anybody else out there who is a non-registered voter or non-resident who is going to wish to speak, please come to the front now. At this point, could I have Matt Trahan, Ellen White, and Rick Sager just raise their hands? Okay, we have Matt in the back in the audience, who is a business owner and taxpayer. We have Ellen White, our town administrator, and Rick Sager, our town attorney. Are there any objections to any of them speaking at tonight's meeting? Seeing no objections, they will be allowed to speak. At this point, I'd like to do some introductions before we get started. To my left, I have our town clerk and tax collector, Kelly Skehan. I have our selectmen, Bob Freeman, Sam Martin, and Rick Morgan. Our town administrator, Ellen White. Our town attorney, Rick Sager. And on my right, we have Joe Goss, who will introduce the budget committee members.
I'm Joe Goss, chairman of the budget committee. I'll let each one introduce themselves.
Good evening, Steve Mosier.
Donna Gridley. Marie McConaty.
Jonathan Smith.
Thank you. If you could take a look at your guidelines, you can see the guidelines are attached to your voting card. And at the bottom, you'll see amended guidelines for town meeting. Every registered voter must possess a voting card to speak. We've already done the approval of the non-resident speaking. Each speaker must be recognized by the moderator, that's me. To be recognized, you need to be at a microphone, and I will direct you when it is your turn to speak. The only exception to being at a microphone to speak would be to move or second an article, but I still need to know who those people are who are making the motion in the second. Tonight, that should only happen once. Please make sure you state your name when you're called upon to speak, and please address your comments through me, directly to me. We're not going to have any cross debate or cross discussion or anything like that. Please make sure you refrain from using names of others, name calling, foul or abusive language. Only one person may speak at a time. Others must remain silent and attentive, and we will bang the gavel if it gets unruly or disruptive. Please be brief and stick to the point and refrain from repetition. There is one article to be discussed, and we will hear the arguments for and against this article, but we will not hear the same arguments multiple times. There will be a time limit on the discussion of this article. We're beginning the meeting now, and we will be adjourned no later than 7:10, so that the polls will be open no later than 7:30. The polls must remain open for at least an hour, and we will finish the voting within an hour of that 7:30 mark. Your moderator is the sole authority, and any and all decisions to be made as to the conduct and procedure of this town meeting, though you can overrule me with a simple majority. Are there any questions about the amended guidelines for this meeting? All right, seeing there are no questions, we will continue to move on. The reason for this meeting is to address Article 1. There is only one article up for debate tonight, and I will read that to you now. It is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,200,000 for the purpose of acquiring the land and buildings at 130 Gretchen Road, located on Ossipee Lake, for use as a town beach and recreation area. $1 million of such sum to be raised by the issuance of a serial bonds or notes not to exceed $1 million under and in compliance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, NHRSA 33:1, and to authorize the selectmen to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon and to take such other actions as may be necessary to effect the issuance, negotiation, salary, and delivery of such bonds or notes, as shall be in the best interest of the town of Ossipee. The remaining $200,000 to come from the fund balance or surplus, and no amount of such $200,000 to be raised from taxation. This article is recommended unanimously by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee, and it requires a 2/3 ballot vote by the townspeople. Do I have a motion on this article? I have a motion and a second? Second. Okay, so now we have a motion and a second on this article. We will open it up for discussion. Please, ruly and calm, going to the microphone. But we will start with the selectmen to explain the process.
Good evening. First of all, there are about twice as many people that are normally here for town meeting, and I'm glad you're all here. The concept of a beach on Ossipee Lake is not something that's new. The question could simply be put as what's taken so long? And the fact of the matter is that what has taken so long is there are precious few sites along the lake that are adequate for, Joe, there's a wicked hum up here. I'm sorry. That are adequate for not only the beach, but access and parking. I'm told that back in the 1950s, the townspeople actually had access to a beach, and through a short-sighted decision by the selectmen at that time, they lost the access over private land to it. There was an effort back in the 1980s to secure a beach that failed. Myself and Harry Merrow and some others tried unsuccessfully in 2003 and 4 to gain access by land into the Lone Pine Beach. So this is not something new. About 3 years ago, I approached the owners of Camp Secocas under the belief that at some point that property was going to be on the market. At that time, they weren't ready to sell, and that was that. About a little over a year ago, through a mutual friend, we were told that they were ready to begin discussions. I was appointed to represent the Board of Selectmen. Myself and the town administrator met with the owners on multiple occasions and came to an agreement to purchase that land, pending, of course, town meeting approval. The land encompasses about 53 acres, the most important part of which is 200 feet of frontage on Ossipee Lake and about a 450-foot swath to that 200 feet of shorefront, which runs from Hodgson Shore Road to the lake. It would include all of Gretchen Road, which then gives you straight access from Route 16B. The property was assessed by the town at $1.26 million. Their appraisal came in at 1.2, and that's where that number came from. I'm not going to belabor a lot of the points because I think most people that are here have probably pretty well made up their mind, and I want to preserve as much time for question and answers as we can. I want to touch briefly on whether or not the town could afford it. For those of you who actually read your tax bill, the town portion of your tax bill has gone down the last 4 years in a row. So the previous 3 years, it lowered by 34 cents per thousand. We're waiting on the 2017 rate to be finalized, which can't be finalized until after tonight's meeting, but it's going to go down again between 15 and 18 cents per thousand. Town finances are not rocket science. If you can limit your growth at a slower rate than the revenues, then the tax rate goes down. We have been successful over the last 4 years of lowering the town portion of your tax rate while still accomplishing major projects. The addition to the highway garage is an example. We paid cash for that, and that year your tax rate still went down 4 cents per thousand. The voices who are saying that this is going to raise your taxes are wrong. Every one of us, every one of the budget committee, we're all taxpayers. None of us want our property taxes going up any more than you do. And we have worked very, very hard to make sure that that does not happen. A bond that a town does, we would do it through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. And what they do is they couple this project with a bunch of other towns doing projects, and then they put out in bulk that for bid. The estimate that we have from the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank on a 20-year note, and they're giving us the highest interest rate. They believe it will be lower, which is at 3%. And it's not like a traditional mortgage. They take the principal and divide it by the 20 years, so that every year $50,000 comes off the principal. The total cost, if it went through at the 3%, which they believe it will be much lower, the total cost of the bond, $1 million, would be $1,319,800. $875 at their estimate. The town of Ossipee financially is in extremely good shape. Not only have we lowered the taxes, but our surplus, or unassigned fund balance, some people refer to it as a rainy day fund, stands at $1.166 million. We have proposed to take $200,000 out of surplus and to bond the remainder. This body could choose, if it did, to take more out of surplus and bond a little less. I would not recommend, nor would anybody up here recommend, that we take more than $500,000 out of surplus. That remaining money is there in case there is an emergency or a natural disaster, and to take out anything more than that would be, I think, not wise. There have been a lot of issues raised, primarily by folks who are opposed, that this is somehow going to cost a whole lot of money to operate. It is a beach. Its most intense use would be in July and August. We have personnel on payroll whose responsibility it is to maintain our parks. They do the mowing, they pick up trash. That's what they do. There is absolutely no reason to believe that we need to hire anybody additionally. When it comes to lifeguards, Peter Waugh is here someplace, and as he pointed out in his letter and has been discussed, and he's absolutely right, there is actually less liability to not have a lifeguard than there is to have one. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but if you have a lifeguard on duty, then they have an expectation of a certain level of service. If that service is not provided, then you get sued. To post it no lifeguard on duty is less of a liability than if we have a lifeguard on duty. We have checked with our insurance carrier. There is absolutely no increase in the town's insurance. We have a blanket liability policy, which they assume, we already have A-Town Beach on Duncan Lake. They assume that liability for every town. So there's no increase there. We've had the road reviewed by the Public Works Department, and with our equipment and the ability to put a crown back in it, there's not anything needed on the road. In a nutshell, when we started off, we looked at the potential of raising revenue to offset the cost of the bond. It was never a necessary factor. I believe then, and I believe now, it was worth looking at. More and more people keep giving us feedback. Many on a fundamental basis just don't believe that the town should be in business, and I understand that. Long story short, we never sought to be in the campground business. We never sought to be in the boat dock business. By simplifying and making the decision to proceed with a plan without either, it brings it down to a simple fundamental question. And that is, do you want Ossipee residents to have access to Ossipee Lake? I find it, quite frankly, a little incredible when this town is incorporated 232 years ago, that in 2017 we're even debating that. But here we are. This is an opportunity that I believe truly will be the last opportunity. If you look around the lake, suitable sites for a town beach simply do not exist. And with that, I will gladly answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you. Before we have that happen, for those of you who are in the back, there are at least 10 seats down around the front. If we can part the seas a little bit, come down over on the other side of the camera, but allow some space for newcomers to come in. As that's happening, if you do wish to speak or you do have any questions, please approach the microphones in the center.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator. My name is Jim Fitzpatrick, and I'm not here to speak for myself or my wife. I'm here to speak for the Broad River Bay Association. I happen to be president of that association and chairman of the executive committee. of that association. 2 weeks ago, we sent a letter, the executive committee, 7 members, sent a letter to the editor supporting the beach proposal. Last week, there was a clarification in the Independent that said several members of the executive committee had questioned the letter, that it was just my views and not the views of the executive committee. I spent the weekend talking to the editor of the Independent and determined that there was not, in fact, a member of the executive committee who disagreed with the letter. The letter was approved. Matter of fact,
Mr. Fitzpatrick, I'm going to interrupt you. We're not here to discuss your letter.
Okay.
Please speak to the article and only the
I'll
article.
speak to the article, and I'm saying that we, Guadalupe Bay Association Executive Committee, supports the beach proposal, and I want everybody to know that that clarification that in the Independent was incorrect, and there will be an editorial in the Independent this week making a correction. Unfortunately, the editorial wouldn't appear before this meeting, so that's why I'm speaking on behalf of the beach proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moderator.
Ms. Ayton.
I'm sorry that I wasn't at prior meetings, but I did not have the time to do the research that I wanted to do before I had anything to say. I went to the registry of deeds, the copies of the tax map, so I could identify what we were dealing with. I'm only doing this because you may have answers to my questions. The yellow is what's outlined as what the town intends to purchase if we approve this. Is that correct?
I can't see your map, but if you look at our drawing here, it shows it outlined.
Unless things have changed since that tax map was done, the latest one done, that's where my questions are coming up. The town already owns a lot of land down in that area, which by coming to the town hall today, confirmed that that is conservation land and is pretty much swampy. I can't talk any louder. I'm concerned with the road going in. It says it's a private road. Okay. It states it on it, it is a private road. Who is maintaining that road now?
Right now, it is in fact a private road, which is a part of this parcel. If town meeting approves it, then we would own that road, and it would be owned and maintained by us.
Well, how does it become town road?
It's on the property that we would be buying.
It shows it as a separate parcel on the tax map as a private right-of-way.
No, it's part of what we are purchasing.
Who has been maintaining it up till now?
The owners of Camp Secocas.
So they've been maintaining that road for all the people that use that frontage now?
For the people who are in their campground, yes.
Well, no, you've got other lots along that are owned by people, and there it says right on it, it's a private road.
It has been gated, and it has been maintained as a part of the campground. It's gated at the end of Gretchen Road as it meets Hodgson Shore Road.
Well, I'm not trying to be difficult, but where you see that road going down, and it goes off to the left, and it still says private road, there has to be an association that's using that road.
Gretchen Road runs from Route 16B in a straight line to Hodgson Shore Road. Hodgson Shore Road is a town road. It's not a private road.
Well, the tax map doesn't have
Ma'am,
that.
I'm not going to argue the tax map with you. Hodgson Shore Road is a town road. It's town maintained.
All right, so then that has happened since this tax map was,
I don't know where you got the map.
well, the maps were done for the town of Ossipee by the company Little Cartographics or whatever their name is.
Hodgson Shore Road is a town-maintained town road.
Okay, to speak, you must be recognized, you need to get in line. But again, we're sticking to the article, so how does your question relate to support or not support?
Well, it does, because if this is going to be an added expense on top of the purchase, and we have insurance issues with a private road, I don't know how wide that road is, I've never been down it. But I think there is concern, plus there's also shows a right-of-way going right straight through the two lots that are on the beach. The other concerns I have were, is there a public facility for bathroom? And what is going to be done about trash? And what is going to be done for a parking lot? And how many people do you feel can be using that beach at the same time?
Okay. Rick, can you address those questions?
I will try.
And also, it's on the drawing over here to my left.
Okay.
The conceptual drawings which are over here, and there's nothing scribed in stone, but we had White Mountain Survey, and Jim Rhines is here and can speak to it. We felt there was a need for at least 40 parking spaces, which there is more than adequate room for. How many people would be using the beach in a given day? I think that's completely weather dependent, et cetera. We're planning on room for 40 cars. The bathroom facilities, there are bathroom facilities already on the property. They are not ADA compliant. There will be at least the need for some porta potties on the lake side of Hodgson Shore Road, in particular one that is handicapped accessible. There is water and sewer, which is on both sides of Hodgson Shore Road with pumps that pump it back to a leach field on the non-water side of Hodgson Shore Road. But there is water and septic on the premises, which is currently being used.
Is that right-of-way that divides the two parcels that goes to the water, is that being used as a boat ramp by anybody?
It is not.
And it will not be able to?
And it will not be. There are no plans whatsoever, and this is one of the attacks, was because I happened to be a boat salesman at Ward's Boat Shop, that this was somehow, and I don't get that, because I've been working on a town beach for 15 years and I've been selling boats for 2, but that's neither here nor there. There are no plans at all to have a boat launch. Boats and swimmers do not mix. That goes back to our decision to eliminate the boat docks. Right now, there are 24 boat docks on that property that are used by the seasonal campground, as well as 4 moorings. All of that will be gone. We never sought to be in the boat dock business.
Okay, well, there is a tarred road that on White Pond, which was used supposedly as a ramp, but that's the total of this, that ramp is the sole beach. Excuse me, that's the only place public can use. Yeah. So you're either having to move for a car to come down.
Yeah, they don't mix well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Your name, please.
Alice Walker, 16 Channel Road. I've been coming here since 1952 when my parents first bought property on the Narrows between Broad Bay and Levitt-Bray. I totally support a town beach. I have been over to Duncan Lake. That is a poor excuse for a town beach and boat ramp. This property looks like an ideal thing for the town to get into. And to me, even if it increases my tax bill by $50 to $100, it's worth it. And I'm a retired person. My husband and I are both on fixed incomes, and I would totally support this project.
Thank you.
Thank you, but your taxes are not going to go up like that.
Mr. Merrow.
Thank you. Harry Merrow, Ossipee. I'm not going to say much because just about everything that needs to be said, I think, has been said.
Thank you.
But I do just want to say that this probably will be the last time that you will ever have to get a beach. I've been working on this for a long time. Rick's been working on it for a long time. I've gone over the finances, not only as a private individual, but as a town treasurer. And as far as I'm concerned, we can afford this, and they'll be calling us names just like they're calling the previous people who didn't buy it names if we don't buy this thing. I think it's really, really a good deal. And that's all I'm going to say, and I support it, other than the fact that the comment that was made just before I was here on the whether or not Hodgson Shore Road was a town road. It is a town road all the way up to Ann Ward's. My family has had a place on that road since 1895. And it hasn't been a town road that long, but it's been a town road since I was a kid in the 1950s. So, and it stops just beyond Ann Woods.
Thanks, Harry. Yes, sir, your name, please?
Wayne Marshall, 78 Walker Hill Road. Although I don't appear to be, I'm probably one of the richest people you'll ever meet. And the reason for that is when I was a boy, I grew up on about a 4-minute walk to a beach. And I spent my days at that beach with my brother and my friends. And there's just something about the moving water and the sand and the sun that touches you in a way that few other things can. In our lifetime, if we're lucky, we're given an opportunity to be part of something that's bigger than ourselves and to leave a mark for our posterity. We have an opportunity here today to provide our children access to something which cannot be bought for money. It's beyond price. And I urge you all to participate in this opportunity, buy this beach. Thank you.
Yes, sir, your name, please.
Richard Cogswell, 6 Beach River Circle. I've been away from town for a while, but I'm back in town. I've been a resident now back for about a year. And I was chairman of the Ossipee Lake Beach Committee in the late 1980s and early 90s. And I can tell you that we worked very, very hard to find any piece of water on Ossipee Lake. We did get access to the beach in the Narrows, but it's not a very big beach. It's not very suitable, for swimming. But it was a beach. People go there and fish and picnic and have a great time. They use the elevated walkway. And while we were doing that, I walked most of the swamp on the shores of Ossipee Lake trying to find access to Lone Pine Beach. Was finally told by the state, you can't get there from here. And he said, find another place. So we looked at the parasailing beach, which is right on the corner there, just down the shore a ways. And that would have required access across open water to get there in a bog. And they said, I'm sorry, you can't have access to that. It's too difficult. And so we accepted the elevated walkway and we built that and had access later. When I was a state representative, we got access to the boat ramp down here on 25, and we got that purchased by the state. So we have access to a boat ramp on 25, which is now a really nice boat ramp on 25. And so the state has always told me, you can't have access there, find another place. And so we looked for another place, but a place at that time was not to be found. And so I'm really delighted that the owners and the selectmen have found this location. It is a beautiful beach, and it is high time Ossipee had a beach on their lake.
Thank you, Mr. Cogswell.
Hi, I'm Ellen Keith, and I had a letter that was supposed to go in the Sun, and it's not very long, but it didn't get in today, so I just wanted to read it. It says, yes, Ossipee citizens, please, by all means, do the math. I did the math, as did several households nearby, and we all reached the same answers. The factual numbers showed that each of our households spent more on gas this summer season, driving to other towns' lakes and parks and decent swim places than would have been spent on any possible tax increase due to us having our own beach. So it's financially beneficial for us to have decent lake access in our own town. Not to mention the time spent in the car with kids that you could probably do something else with. We also, as a town, are losing out economically by not having easy access to a decent beach. I know of numerous good couples and families that were intending to move to our part of New Hampshire from down south, and they were looking in our town. Several of these people also, 3 in fact, were looking to buy businesses right in center Ossipee because they were going to bring their business north. All of them, unfortunately, when they found out that we didn't have any access to the beach, went elsewhere and gladly paid higher taxes because they felt that's part of the New Hampshire experience is being able to swim. So we lost out on some really good people. We economically would have benefited from having those businesses. So what I believe is that if you ever want to sell your house, also having beach access will be a big help. If you personally don't like to swim, what about your children and your visitors and your grandchildren? It's also a matter of maintaining our local control. I'd like to know just exactly who is paying for all those slick mailers I keep getting and all those signs. I think it's self-interested out-of-town people and some that are living out of state, and they'd like to deny us our own beach in our own town with our own name. So please with me vote yes to our own beach. It's a yes to local control. Please vote yes to our own beach. It's a yes to economically practical feasibility. Please vote yes to our own town beach, to improving our own quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rhines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim Rhines, 51 Main Street here in Center Ossipee. I think that this is a golden opportunity. Interest rates are at historic lows. The town's debt is non-existent. We have a huge rainy day fund, thanks to the efforts of the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen. This is an opportunity to get working families access to Ossipee Lake. It's overdue, and it's really an investment rather than an expense, because I was told by a surrogate grandfather a long time ago, never borrow money on a depreciating asset, and this is an appreciating asset. And this is, if we decided 20 years from now this was a terrible mistake, I'm sure that we could get our money back many times over. So we heard that this beach would be handicap accessible, which the Duncan Lake Beach is not. I think that, as has been said before, it's a perfect time, and this is a golden opportunity that shouldn't be missed. And I hope you'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone standing waiting to speak? Okay, we will hear from one more as we have reached our time limit.
Joy Gagnon, Ossipee, and my son wants to speak.
Hello, my name is Isaac Gagnon, and I want a beach because I want somewhere to go swimming that's not so far away, and somewhere that we might be able to ride some bikes and play on a playground.
Thank you, Isaac. It seems to have worked out well that our discussion has ended naturally, and we have reached the time limit of 7:10. So I will entertain a motion to recess for 10 minutes while we get the voting area set up. Do I have a motion and a second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So give us 10 minutes and then we'll start the voting process. Let me remind you that you will need to sign in to vote with the ballot, and you will need to show your license, so please have that ready to go.
Nice job. Everybody was talking about that outside. Where are these people?
All right, the results are in. We had a total of 468 votes. 297 were yes, 171 was no. So that put us at only 63%, and so it fails. We did not make the